Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today is a potpourri edition of prices for vintage Star Wars figures on eBay. We've got loose graded, we've got loose complete vehicles, we've got loose complete figures ungraded, and we've got mint on cards. I think that covers the gamut for vintage Kenner stuff. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you're new to the channel, I try to provide price guides for different Star Wars action figures. Please leave me a like and consider subscribing. All right, let's go ahead and take a closer look. I had a Patreon supporter reach out and said, hey, you haven't made a watch list clean out video in a while. So this is kind of it. This is like a potpourri edition that covers a wide gamut of different items. LM Lane 3, I don't know this seller personally or anything like that, but I have bought from this seller several times, been very happy. He had this dark brown-haired Hong Kong COO, two-line COO, with the dark brown hair for Luke Farmboy. And that one sold for $452. Not terribly surprising. It had one little nick on his hand right there on the saber hand. But really, other than that, it was pretty mint. I mean, I think this gets an 80 grade easily, if not even an 80 plus. No discoloration to the torso whatsoever. I really like this figure, very clean. This is actually cleaner looking than my uncirculated 85 grade. I think that this is a great deal at $452. Very tough to find the very dark brown hair. Look, there's a light brown hair Hong Kong. That's fairly common. This is not that what that is. This is the darker brown hair. It's like a chocolate colored hair color. He also had a Luke Jedi with the blue lightsaber. Very, very nice figure here. And I think this was the Hong Kong. Let's take a close. Now, this is the no COO. So this is the no COO blue saber Luke, and there is a Hong Kong variation as well with the blue saber. This one sold for $227.50, and this seller had a loose complete R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber last 17 figure. And, you know, the sticker had some rippling going on there that you can see. It also a little bit of yellowing. Dome was very clean, though. I think this one gets an 80 or an 80 plus would be my guess. That one sold for $650. Pretty good deal there, I think, for a pop-up lightsaber R2-D2. And this digs into, I've only got a couple of loose complete vehicles, but I didn't look too closely at the description on this one, but this one did sell for $527 for the Tatooine skiff. And I'm just curious, let's see here. Absolutely no repro parts, all pieces original, no cracks, nothing broken off. And it says 100% complete, but I don't know if this is missing something as to why this one sold so cheap. This price seems really low to me, so I don't know. I'm looking at it, and I don't see anything that's missing off the top of my head, but $527 is the cheapest price I've seen for a loose complete Tatooine skiff in a long time. Same seller also had the Ewok Battle Wagon. This one also looks complete and in really good shape. The skull and the drum for the battering ram often do get yellow on this, but this one was very clean and white. $420 on that one. I'm kind of used to $600 to $650 for the Ewok Battle Wagon, and I'd say $800 to $900 minimum for the skiff. So both of those kind of fell underneath the radar in terms of auctions. On to loose graded, we have a Europe textured cape Kenner / PBP AFA 80 Darth Vader. So this one is the textured cape Spanish PBP figure, and this one sold in an auction for $280. And I bet this is one that is fairly low on the census count. And we've talked about this in the past. AFA usually is not the one to get Spanish PBP figures to be graded. Those usually go to UKG. So that's a really nice example there. And then the same seller also had a Lily Letty graded CAS 85 with a lettered saber hilt. That one sold for $226.50 on that one. So two good prices there. Also, they had a red bar. This was a CAS 80 grade red bar R5D4. What am I talking about? I'm talking about that little orange rectangle on the far left-hand side of his body. On the sticker there is filled in with the orange. So the Red Bar R5, really amazing item. $910 was a great deal, I feel like, for a red bar. That's kind of the price they're going for, sometimes loose and ungraded. So to get a graded CAS 80, pretty good deal at $910. Here's another rarity. I think I had this in a what to buy video. This was a AFA 80 Plus Bossk mail away, and there are not many of these on the census that have been graded by AFA. This was the second highest graded example. I think there's only one 85 grade for the Bossk mail away on the population report. $18.75 was the buy it now price, and it did sell. 80 plus grade flat one-sided flyer. That usually signifies to me that this flyer in the middle also came two-sided. So that's what I'm guessing based on the AFA label. They usually don't label things like that unless there's a variation out there for the flyer. Really cool item, though. That's one I would love to have one day. $18.75 did take that home in a buy it now situation. Here was an AFA 90 for the Dianoga Trash Monster. So very high grade. That one sold for 206 pounds, which is $271 in an auction. Beautiful example there for the Trash Monster. And I've got two different R2s. One of them, the solid dome. This is the standard solid dome UKG 85%. This is not the dark blue dome, dark blue paint apps for the early bird version of R2D2. This one did sell for 250 pounds, which is $330 US. Very fair price, given that an AFA 85 sets you back, I don't know, $450 to $500 sometimes, even in an auction. So you can see there, it's got the letter blue paint scheme to the dome. And then this seller had an R2D2 sensor scope graded AFA 85. Obviously, this is the later ESB release, $281 on that one. So two different R2D2s for you. Here was an AFA 80 plus Luke Skywalker in his Stormtrooper disguise. This one was an older case style and sold for $475. Not a bad deal. Good candidate to send in to get regraded in the newer case style, assuming that blaster is the correct dark black blaster. It looks like it to me, but I am not a blaster expert or an expert on anything, to be honest with you. $475 took that home. I think that's appropriately graded. You can see a little bit of yellowing to the arms and legs relative to the torso. Does it still get the 80 plus if you send it back in? That's the question. I think it probably gets lowered to an 80 just based on the yellowing to the arms and legs. But what do I know? On to some mint on cards. This was a pretty good deal for a 21 back A Boba Fett that was sold by a trusted seller over in the Netherlands. Obviously, the blister had a lot of dings to it, so it was not perfect by any means, but the price reflected that. It sold for $3,200 in an auction. Maybe some light yellowing even going on the blister there. It looks down at the bottom anyway on the stem. It does look a little bit yellowed. Maybe not. I don't know. It could just be bad lighting. But that one did have some blister dings, probably at best, like a 70 grade. The card was in really good shape. Figure was also in excellent shape with no discoloration that I can see. Maybe a little bit on the right-hand side. His arm on his left, looking at it on the right from this view. But it looks like maybe that arm has got a little bit of discoloration going on. But $3,200, that's about as cheap as you're going to get for a mint on card 21 back A Boba Fett. Here was another interesting one. This is the AFA 75 IG88 from the 12-inch line. Really, it's a 15-inch figure because it's so big. That's what she said. $27.49 in an auction. 34 bids on that one. The subgrades were 75, 80, and 90 for the figure score. And the seller did disclose that the little zip tie that usually I think goes around the body had fallen off. So, maybe that precludes it from getting the 90 grade. But still, it is what it is. This is a Minton sealed box IG88 AFA 75, $27.49 again on that one. Gold Star Tech had the debut card for Yoda, which is the 32B, and it was in pretty good shape. It wasn't perfect. You can see some wear around the hang tab. $329 in an auction on that one. This was not graded, but clear blister. Blister was in great shape that I could tell there. No dings on the blister or the stem. But it's really the card is what held that one back. $329, maybe a little more than I'd be willing to spend just given that card damage. But, it is what it is. $329 on 26 bids. Took that home, free shipping. And same seller also had the 41 back E for C-3PO, which I believe is the last card that C-3PO came on before they switched over to the removable limbs. Don't quote me on that. Crystal clear blister. It did have some wear in the lower left-hand corner. You can see some spider veining there, but blister was in great shape. Rest of the card was in great shape. Probably a 75 plus would be my guess. 425 on that one. It might get the 80. I don't know. You might get the 80 on that one. Just depends on how badly they treat you for that corner, kind of corner crunch there. But maybe it gets a 75, 80 or 85 for the blister, and then 85 for the figure, and they round up to the 80 grade. Just depends on if the grader's in a good mood or not. But 425 took that one home. Next up, this seller had a couple of beauties. This one was, I believe, the 77 back A for Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, green saber, obviously. This one was unpunched, no price sticker, and the blister was in really great shape. Usually the 77As get really heavily yellowed. This one had some moderate to light yellowing, I would say. 375 on that one. And again, we've talked about Luke Jedi mint on card for these common card backs like the 77 or the 79. And you don't want to overpay. And 350, 375 is right in line with market on that one. They also had this 65 back A for Darth Vader, crystal clear blister. A little bit of light wear on the left-hand side, but man, that was a beauty. And that one sold for 301, which I thought was a great deal for a white, a clear blister, clean card. It was punched, but, I think that gets an 80 grade pretty easily just based on a cursory look of it. So 301 is a great deal on that one. Likewise, here was another Darth Vader. This was a 77A with light yellowing, as you'd expect for most 77 backs, but very light yellowing, really. Unpunched with the KB Toys price sticker. Here's the back of the card. Very, very clean. Kind of semi-unpunched. The hanger tab's starting to come out a little bit. Again, 301 on that one. So I thought that was interesting that a clear blister 65 back A sold for 301, and then a 77 back A with a slightly yellow blister sold for the exact same price. So that gives you a nice tight price range if you're looking for a very clean Darth Vader on a Return of the Jedi card back. And then finally, here was a Droids Side Gunner unused contents, unused sticker sheet with all the paperwork inside. The box was a little tatty, and that's what held the price back, obviously, just given the condition of the box. $172.19 on that one. I would expect with a very clean box for this to go $250 to $300, maybe $250. I think you can probably, if you're patient, you can probably pick up one mint and sealed box in a very clean box for $350 to $400, somewhere in that ballpark for the Droids Side Gunner. Anyway, just kind of a mishmash of different items. I hope you enjoyed this look. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.